So last Thursday we got our first look at Silent Hill F, the first look that we have gotten since October of 2022. This was a nice surprise because honestly I wasn't expecting to see anything from this game for at least another year, maybe even 2. Anyway, let's get to the point. I think the new trailer was pretty good, and that seems to be the general consensus, thankfully. I can't say the same for the overall showcase though, which I thought was just average. It wasn't bad by any means, it was just a lot more talking rather than showing. If they had shown just a few seconds of gameplay, or maybe some concept art of 1 or 2 of the monsters, I would have been happy. But for the most part, it was just Ryukishi, Akira Yamaoka, and the producer guys talking about how the Japanese setting was going to be awesome and the monsters were going to be awesome without really demonstrating how in the 30 minutes after the trailer. Though there were a couple of really encouraging bits during this section. Hearing that Ryukishi played all the Silent Hill games was nice, plus the whole design ethos of the game, which is described as finding the beauty in horror, is terribly interesting, and I imagine it will lead to something that feels both familiar to Silent Hill, yet experimental at the same time. The beauty in horror thing was like the one really good part of Silent Hill the Short Message, what with Sakura Head. But can they take that and extrapolate it to the whole game? We'll have to see. But let's turn our attention to the trailer and see what we can glean about the story. What we know for sure is that the game takes place in 1960s Japan. The main character is a teenage girl named Shimizu Hinako, who is, quote, struggling under the pressure of expectations from her friends, family, and society. As for what those expectations are, the main website for Silent Hill F gives a few hints. First, the synopsis for Silent Hill F states that Shimizu needs to decide whether or not to embrace a path of elegance and beauty. Second, the trigger warning for the game states that the game contains depictions of gender discrimination, ones that reflect the customs and culture of 1960s Japan. The combination of this information, plus shots from the trailer of Shimizu having her face peel off, suggests that she struggles with having to adhere to societal expectations of women and the way they physically represent themselves. The whole face peeling thing as a way to represent that inner struggle is a gross yet effective example of the whole beauty in terror idea. And if they can keep doing shocking stuff like that the whole game, then Silent Hill F will succeed with flying colors, at least in the story department. I just hope that if this is the angle they are going for, that they maintain the symbolism and subtlety that Silent Hill is known for instead of falling into traps of preachiness or being too on the nose, kind of like what happened with the aforementioned short message. Thankfully, there are a couple of examples of subtle symbolism in the trailer that I found encouraging. The monster we see at the top of the stairs seems to be a sort of doll or mannequin that is contorting and self-mutilating, representing what Shimizu might want to do to herself, or how she views herself. Plus, Shimizu's name, Hinako, seems to be symbolic of this. In Japanese, her name is written in 2 ways. One of the Japanese letters, pronounced hina, is often associated with a type of Japanese doll, a hina niño, which tend to represent the emperor, empress, and their attendants during the Heian period, which likely represents the way society wants her to be. Somebody to be dressed up, look pretty, and used in ways that benefit others rather than herself. In other words, Hinako is meant to be an inanimate object like a doll, without any personality of her own. The shots of various dolls from this trailer and the trailer that came out 2 years ago support this interpretation, as well as certain lines from this trailer like, I think it's weird too, to not have a grasp of yourself, to not understand your own feelings. As for where some of the pressure to act a certain way might come from, it appears to, at least in part, come from some of her peers at school. There's this one shot of what appear to be drawings of Shimizu with bloody Japanese letters written on top. According to a follower of mine named Zesty Time, these characters are Shin and Ne, which translate to die. Maybe Shimizu was cruel to one of her peers, or one of her peers were so envious of Shimizu setting such a high standard of beauty and behavior that they were either jealous or broke under the pressure of trying to live up to that standard. Either that, or Shimizu did something so heinous that made her peers wish death on her. One part of the trailer that might hint at this is this painting, which depicts a Japanese yokai known as a Rokurokubi, a demon with a long neck. According to the almighty Silent Hill leaker, Aesthetic Gamer aka Dusk Golem, the Rokurokubi are, quote, women transformed by committing an evil deed that's considered a sin against God or nature. Whatever the case may be, it seems that Shimizu was brought over to the other world due to her mental anguish, and her disappearance caused people to think she was dead even though she was only stuck in the fog world, similar to Rose's disappearance in the first Silent Hill movie. Hence why you hear lines in the trailer like, "How long are you going to stay here?" and "You're running out of time to choose." There's also these lines of Japanese text, which might support this interpretation. Special thanks to Zesty Time again and Kason from Resin and Arc for help with this translation. These words either say, "Run away quickly or you'll never be able to get back," suggesting that maybe Shimizu needs to leave the fog world soon lest she gets stuck there, or, depending on the context, they say, "Run away or you'll be possessed." Nonetheless, I do believe the information we got from the trailer makes my overall interpretation seem reasonable. But let's turn to some symbolic interpretation that is probably more reliable. The red spider-lily flower, aka the Higanbanwa, is a famous Japanese symbol that symbolizes death. One of the many names it translates to is Flower of the Afterlife. Part of the reason for that is that it is associated with the Buddhist festival of Higan, which is a time of celebrating the lives of those who have passed on. A more relevant reason to Silent Hill F, however, is that the red spider lilies are highly poisonous. They were often placed on people's graves in order to prevent predators like foxes from digging up the bodies. Foxes, by the way, are also heavily associated with death and the afterlife in Japanese culture, specifically the kitsune. Now, speaking of foxes/kitsune, it appears that Silent Hill F might be taking a page from the Order cult from Silent Hill 1 and 3, and creating their own cult centered around foxes. Moreover, the symbol for this cult follows a similar patterned motif to the Order's symbol. As Aesthetic Gamer points out, the 3 clover petals inside a big circle parallel the 3 circles around a big circle in the Order's halo of the sun. There is one other potential parallel between these two cults that could end up being very interesting. As the trigger warning on the main website points out, the game features drug-induced hallucinations. As far back as Silent Hill 1, drug-induced hallucinations have been a part of the Order's spiritual practices. The specific drug that was used, as we know, was White Claudia, aka PTV. I say this is interesting not because of the similarity, but because, maybe, this could be one way that Silent Hill F ties into the broader Silent Hill universe. Maybe White Claudia was imported by the town of Silent Hill from Japan, which would not only be cool for the tie-in, but would also help amplify the whole beauty through horror theme, what with a flower causing altered mental states and therefore mental anguish. Of course, there would have to be a bit of a retcon here, because the lore states that White Claudia is, quote, peculiar to the region of Silent Hill. However, if this were retconned, you could say that the word peculiar meant that it is a foreign flower that shouldn't be in Silent Hill, rather than a flower that is specific to that region. Anyway, I would be okay with that, provided the explanation doesn't get too convoluted, but we'll see. And that was pretty much all I had to say about the trailer in terms of story detail. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I missed that you guys want to point to, so let's keep the conversation going in the comment section below. To conclude this video, I want to offer up an interpretation as to what the letter F in Silent Hill F means. Before I do, I gotta give basically all the credit to my amazing wife who came up with this idea while she was watching the new trailer. So, there are certain sounds that do not cross over between different languages. The most famous example, obviously, is the fact that the letter L does not exist in Japanese, and is often replaced with R. While the same is kind of true for the letter F. The closest they have to that letter is this character, which is written in English letters as FU. However, it should be noted that when pronounced, the sound that is made is not F. Rather, it is a sound that is somewhere between a F and a H, like this. This is partially because in a list of Japanese hiragana, the Japanese character of FU is listed alongside characters that begin with H. According to my research, the actual sound that is made is something akin to blowing out a candle, which, well, we see happen at one point in the Silent Hill F trailer. Now, as for the meaning of this character in Japanese, one of the meanings is that it is a negative prefix, similar to the English prefix of un. Take for instance the Japanese ko, which can mean fortune. If we add fu, as in fuko, it becomes misfortune. So the F may represent the trials Hanako must face as she crosses over into the realm of Silent Hill, or rather inverse place of reality, where she is tormented and has to overcome her struggles. In this theory, we can see how the F in this Silent Hill game could be an all-encompassing symbol for the game's overall themes and helps clarify how the series could expand into Japan. It maintains familiar elements of Silent Hill in respect to the distortion of reality, cults, drugs, etc., but is also doing things with the Silent Hill brand that are the inverse, setting it in Japan, making beauty the guiding motif in its horror rather than rust and blood. And on top of that, the negative prefix could also symbolize Shimizu desire and/or the Clover cult's desire to negate Japanese cultural standards and/or life in general. Now, it is possible that maybe the F represents, as some people have said, the forte symbol in music, which indicates that something should be played loudly. Or it could be as simple as being the first letter for the word flower. But hey, so much of the fun of Silent Hill games is reading deeply into things. At the moment, I like my wife's theory the most, and it's not because she's my wife, I promise. Anyway, that's my analysis. I would love to hear your thoughts and theories in the comment section below. Make sure to like this video if you liked it, and if you want to see more Silent Hill analysis from me in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Until next time, remember to stay safe and stay yellow.